I've liked Blake since I was a child. As time went by, I developed an obsession with him. But he had a first love. Later, they broke up, and I accompanied him to drink and fight. I threw my dignity on the ground and let others trample on it. In the 6th year of our relationship, he said he wanted to get married. However, in the 1st year of our marriage, he cheated on his first love. I tricked Blake onto the rooftop. Even if I had to die, I wanted him to be with me. But when I opened my eyes, I was back a year ago. This time, instead, he was making a fuss and pulled me, saying he loved me. My whole body felt weak and sore. I opened my eyes with great effort. Memories came flooding back, and the feeling of falling rapidly from the rooftop still lingered in my body. I turned around and saw Blake, who was asleep. The alarm clock rang, and I instinctively reached out to turn it off. But the date on it made me sit up instantly. I had gone back in time. This time? I quickly got up and ran towards the bathroom. My face was still fair and clean, without the hysterical jealousy and anger. I'm back. Now it's the 1st month of my marriage to Blake. There were dense purple and blue bruises all over my body. I remembered this day. Last night, his first love had returned to the country, and everyone threw a welcome banquet for her. Blake had also gone. After I found out, I drove there, smashing wine bottles and going crazy. In the end, Blake vented all his anger on me. It was always like this. Whenever I quarreled with him, that night would be my nightmare. But in the past, I always thought this was evidence of his love for me. Now that I think about it, in Blake's heart, I was probably just a plaything. When I came to my senses and went out, he had already gotten up. His face turned livid, and he didn't even look at me. Have you calmed down? Blake was always like this. It seemed that every time it was my fault. Even though he had been secretly supporting his first love behind my back. Even though I had caught them drinking a toast together yesterday. Blake, if I hadn't gone, would you have slept with her on the sofa? I still remembered my shrill scream last night. He just sneered. I was enraged by his attitude and blurted out words without thinking. I won't let her off. I couldn't do anything when she was abroad before. But now, if she dares to come back and seduce you, I will never let her have an easy life. Only when Blake heard these words did he stare at me viciously. This was a rare occasion for him to lose his temper. For an outsider. In the past, when I saw such a look in his eyes, my heart would ache as if it were pricked by countless needles. But now, I watched him dress inferiorly. Countless feelings of joy welled up in my heart. Yes, having fulfilled my obsession. I regretted it. When I jumped off the rooftop, I suddenly thought of my mother and my brother. But I didn't even leave a word for them. And they received the news of my death like this. For a man. I even ignored my mother. I closed my eyes and forcefully suppressed the corners of my mouth that wanted to turn up. This rebirth was simply an unexpected joy. You just be a good Mrs. Blake. After Blake finished tittying himself up, he looked at me. If you do that, I'll pretend I didn't see or hear what happened last night. I sat by the bed and didn't respond. He frowned slightly, seemingly not very satisfied. Well, in the past, no matter what, as long as he took the initiative to talk to me, no matter how angry I was at that moment, I would smile and reply. I didn't care about my dignity at all. I was like a hound dog longing for his favor. With just one look or one word of comfort, I could lick my own wounds. So he was used to it. But now I just looked at him quietly. I opened my mouth and spoke in an extremely calm voice. Blake. There was a trace of displeasure on his face. But he still stopped the action of closing the door. Let's get a divorce. Blake didn't react. Just sneered. We've been married for a month. Right? I was puzzled. Scarlett. Think about how many times you've said this. I suddenly realized. It was like the story of the boy who cried wolf. Since the day we got married, after his first love entered our lives, Blake and I quarreled almost every day. Even for our honeymoon trip, we still haven't decided on a destination. There was no other reason. Before marriage, Blake said he didn't like these things. But he could accompany his first love to see the aurora and ride a hot air balloon. He could cancel all his plans just to accompany her across half the earth to watch the concert of the star his first love liked. Even later, Blake forgot that he had a wife like me. He started going out with his first love openly. The gossip magazines and news were full of their affection. And under such pressure, I became a resentful woman. Those obsessions with him, bit by bit, wove into a path of death. I softened my tone and my eyes were calm. I'm serious. Blake, I want a divorce. Blake still didn't take it seriously. In his eyes, my words were no different from a tantrum. Well, in everyone's eyes, I loved him to death. I even went to the extent of threatening to kill myself. For someone like me to say I wanted to give up, it was simply unthinkable. So Blake left with a sense of righteousness. Just like before. He even thought it was a waste of time to say a word to me. Madam. A person came in from outside. I took a closer look and saw that it was Aunt Zhang. She was sent by my mother. At that time, my husband was with another woman. And it was she who noticed my tendency to commit suicide. So she stayed by my side every day. I lowered my eyes. And those feelings of unwillingness turned into a long sigh. In my previous life, for a man who wasn't worth it. What on earth had I missed? Aunt Zhang. You can go back to my mother's place for a few days. After my divorce from Blake is finalized, you can come back to me. Aunt Zhang looked stunned. Actually, Helen, I had a bit of a selfish motive. I hoped that through Aunt Zhang's words, my mother could get a hint in advance. It wouldn't be like in my previous life, where she watched me suffer every day without knowing what to do. At this moment, my best friend Sunny invited me to a charity banquet in the evening. She was a non-marriage advocate. In my previous life, she comforted me when she saw me sad because of Blake, but when she saw that I was stubborn and wouldn't listen, she gradually distanced herself from me. I'd rather make friends with a fool than try to save someone who's pretending to be asleep. She was right. I was really stupid in the past. She knew how Blake and I started our relationship. At the beginning, she had advised me that a man with someone else in his heart was the last person I should get involved with. But later I still ran into a dead end. And the result was something I couldn't turn back from. But fortunately, now everything can start anew. I chose a tight-fitting red dress. Specifically had my hair permed, and got a facial treatment. By the time everything was done and I went to the banquet, the timing was just right. You look so beautiful. She sincerely complimented me and winked at me. I thought some people would be completely devastated last night. My feelings for Blake were no secret in this circle. The slightest bit of news was enough for them to talk about for a long time during their idle moments. I also winked at her. I've seen the error of my ways. Is it still too late? She finally laughed. You're naturally welcome. Sunny was a strong woman. After graduating, she took over her family's business. She was the one who took the lead in organizing this charity event. So as soon as we entered, she was called away by someone. I stood in a corner with nothing to do. But my eyes were firmly fixed on someone. He was wearing an ordinary suit and stood aside with a submissive expression. He didn't go out until someone called him from outside. I couldn't resist and followed him. Sir. He turned around in confusion. As I expected. It was him. I stepped forward with a smile. Hello. My name is Scarlett. Even though he wasn't famous yet, his face showed arrogance. But he had the capital to be arrogant. Because in half a year, he would become extremely popular across the country and become a rising star. I still maintained a gentle attitude. I want to cooperate with you. I wonder if you're interested, sir. He looked at me in surprise. There was finally a crack in that face that seemed like a masterpiece. Why? Because you're a star. I smiled sweetly. And I'm just responsible for embellishing your radiance. I took out a business card from my handbag. It had my name and contact information on it. After chasing Blake for so long, I even forgot my own profession and my own brilliance. In fact, when I didn't have him, I used to be an excellent student, good grades. After graduation, I became a top-notch talent agent who brought out popular stars. And the man in front of me, Rian, he was also the person I felt most sorry for in my career. At that time, I had promised him with full confidence that I would make him famous, and help him take his career to the next level. That's why he resolutely quit his old employer and became blacklisted by his old employer. Then I myself ended up dying together with Blake. Ryan, who had offended a big company because of me, must have had a hard time later. Fortunately, having fulfilled Leah, it's still not too late. And everything hasn't started yet. He hasn't signed with that employer who kept exploiting him and even made him accompany guests. Ryan now still has a childlike enthusiasm for his beloved profession. The frown on his face finally relaxed a bit. This charity event was originally an occasion for him to promote himself. Now that someone was willing to help him, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Okay. He took the business card. My smile became a bit warmer. Nice to meet you, Ryan. Please take care of me in the future. Just as I was about to tell him about the cooperation matters, a burst of anger came from behind me. Scarlett. I stuck out my tongue at Ryan. Then I turned around. Sure enough, I saw Blake with an angry expression on his face. And the woman on his arm, with a look of disapproval. Blake's first love. Vivian. The first time I knew about her was at my coming-of-age ceremony. I thought about it for a week. And finally, after blowing out the candles, I mustered up the courage to confess my love for Blake in public. But in the dim candlelight, the Blake who was celebrating my birthday hugged the woman beside him. He kissed her carefully but with great affection. The candles went out, and the lights came on. My little secret was exposed. Tears streamed down my face. Vivian leaned in Blake's arms. There was a look of pride on her face. At that time, Blake was a legend in our circle. And this woman was his classmate. The day after my birthday, my mother told me that because of her, Blake had had a quarrel with his family. He didn't care about other people's opinions. He publicly expressed his love for her at school. He even mobilized his good friends to use drones to spell out her name in the air. Vivian. That's when I firmly remembered this name. They loved each other in a high-profile way. And their hatred was also intense. But the so-called true love couldn't last for a few years. After I closed my mouth and stopped confessing my love and stopped paying attention to Blake, I still heard about their breakup. They went to study abroad together. I heard that Vivian had hooked up with a more powerful man abroad. She kicked Blake, who had already broken up with his family. After he came back, he drank, smoked, fought, and raced cars. He did all sorts of things that were life-threatening. Except for gambling, drugs, and prostitution. He almost did all the other rebellious things that he shouldn't have done. That flamboyant young master of the Blake family seemed to go crazy overnight. Later, I tried my best to divert his attention. But I couldn't compete with just one sentence from Vivian. Blake, I love you. Vivian was proud. Even in their relationship, it was always Blake who gave in. But her gestures of goodwill after returning to the country fully demonstrated the tenderness of a young girl. Especially after I found out about their relationship. She always looked at me with dissatisfied and scrutinizing eyes. Scarlett. You really have a vivid imagination. She held a boxed meal she made for my husband in her hand, and said she just wanted to make Blake's stomach feel better. Even when she touched her lips to my husband's cheek, she would just say lightly. When Blake and I were passionately in love, our actions were much more intense than this. Could it be that a ceremonial kiss is going to be slandered? She was a woman with tricks up her sleeve. Because of these words that seemed like excuses but kept provoking me, I became more and more insane. In the end, even Blake grew tired of me. Since you like to label people so much, I'll grant your wish. He moved into Vivian's house. And the night before I lost my mind and wanted to die with Blake, she came to me with her 2-month pregnant belly. Scarlett. It's time for you to step aside. Her repeated calls of Scarlett kept reminding me of my place in Blake's heart. So after that night, I completely fell into the illusion I created for myself. I couldn't even break free from that nightmare. But now, after experiencing death once, I slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air. What a coincidence. I met the two of them with the calmest gaze. I even ignored them. What are you doing? Blake's gaze shifted to the business card in Ryan's hand. And his tone was unfriendly. Scarlett. Just because I brought Vivian with me today, Do you have to follow suit? He still had Vivian on his arm. But his eyes were full of dissatisfaction. I've said it many times. She's just my female companion now. I frowned slightly, and was about to speak when my arm was gently tugged. Ryan lowered his eyes halfway, looking like a lonely puppy. Sister. There was a hint of desolation in his voice. I'm going back first. Contact me later. My heart softened, and I nodded involuntarily. Okay. If it were for the fact that it was our first meeting, I would have wanted to pat his head. But this interaction made Blake even angrier. He shook off Vivian, pulled me behind him, and sneered at Ryan. Who do you think you are? Get lost. I immediately stepped forward. Blake. Watch your mouth. Blake was astonished, almost unable to believe it. Scarlett. What did you say? I turned serious and showed my true feelings. I said, be polite to the people around me. Blake's hanging hand clenched tightly. His lips moved several times. In the end, it turned into a sigh. Scarlett. You don't have to provoke me like this. He smiled with certainty. I understand what you mean. I'll come home early tonight. I looked at him with disgust and turned to speak to Ryan. Come early tomorrow. I'll get everything ready for you. Ryan smiled. He had a very charming smile, like the first fierce sun breaking through the dark clouds after a thunderstorm. Okay. I watched his receding figure until it disappeared. There was a faint moisture in my eyes. This time, I won't let you sink into hell. We both have to climb out. After seeing Ryan off, I no longer paid attention to the two of them. I was going to say goodbye to Sunny and leave as well. Blake grabbed me. What on earth are you going to do now? I looked at him in confusion. Since the matter is done. Of course I'm leaving. The matter is done? He looked as if he was gnashing his teeth. Is your matter about Ryan? I didn't want to waste words with him. I opened the car door and was about to get in. Oh, by the way. I rolled down the car window and ignored the glimmer of expectation on his face. Remember to sign the divorce agreement as soon as possible. Blake's face instantly darkened. After the charity dinner, I focused all my attention on Ryan. My family has a deep foundation in the entertainment industry. My mother was originally a talent agent and stopped working after getting married. As for my brother, he has already become a powerful figure in the industry and signed many artists. I set up a studio. In the past, I only dabbled in small projects. But now, I also want to be like my mother. I spent a whole night setting Ryan's initial persona and then recruited several excellent employees from my brother. The studio then became very busy and prosperous. Do you really want to get a divorce? My brother came to see me specifically. At that time, I was looking at houses for Ryan. After months of packaging, he had already gained some popularity. The rented house was no longer suitable for him to live in. I didn't even look up. Yes. He said softly, I asked you before if you would regret it. And then you asked Aunt Jane to come back just 1 month after marriage. Now it's even worse. I can't even find her. He sat down in front of me. Some people have even come to our family asking about it. I said calmly, I don't want to discuss this matter. He refuses to sign the agreement. What can I do? There's no problem that a couple can't solve. Regarding Vivian, this is how things are in our circle. My brother looked outside and said in a low voice, that man you're promoting seems pretty good to me. I then gave him a half smile. These words were said by Mom. Weren't they? My brother immediately waved his hand. Mom said that if you dare to get a divorce, she'll break your legs. Then how could she get a divorce herself? My brother's face changed. When she found out that Dad was having an affair, she didn't hesitate to move out of the house. Why is it different for me? My brother was at a loss for words and just tapped his fingers on the table. Anyway, I support you. But don't drag out the divorce. Ryan is in the rising stage of his career. If someone makes an issue out of it, not only will it be impossible to promote him, but you'll also get into trouble yourself. He didn't say much more. He just gave a few reminders and then left. It was obvious that he was just here to complete a task today. I looked at the pictures sent by the real estate agent and remained silent for a long time. I stopped looking at houses. Instead, I took Ryan to a property under my name. Scarlett? He looked at the spacious flat in front of him and even his breathing became softer. Although we've already called the police about that stalker the other day, there's still a risk. The people living here are either wealthy or of high status. I guarantee that no one will be able to disturb you. I placed the key on the entrance hall. This will be your new home from now on. After getting along with him for a long time, I found that Ryan was actually quite emotional. Just like now. His eyes were red. And he looked at me with his wet puppy-like eyes. Thank you, Scarlett. I quickly said, no need. Just make money for me properly. Okay. I promise I'll definitely become Scarlett's living advertisement and earn money for Scarlett for a lifetime. I couldn't help but laugh and didn't stay long. My brother was right. The divorce couldn't be delayed any longer. I told my lawyer to speed things up. Otherwise, we would directly file a lawsuit. He replied with an okay. Unexpectedly, as soon as I got out of the elevator, I saw Vivian. It turned out that Blake had hidden her away in this place. She still looked exquisite and strong-willed. But this time, she took the initiative to come up to me. Shall we talk? I raised my eyebrows, closed the car door, and rolled down the window. Talk to you? Who do you think you are? Maybe Blake had spoiled her too much. It made her lose all sense of direction. She was wearing a high-end custom-made suit, carrying a bag worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. She was wearing lambskin shoes. She was picked up and dropped off by a driver every time she went out or came back. But without Blake, she wouldn't even be able to reach the threshold of our circle. Everyone knew that she got into school because of her excellent grades. Later, after getting involved with Blake, she gradually got rid of her rustic look. She gained the capital to show off. However, I don't like Blake anymore now. So to me, Vivian is just an ordinary person. Vivian obviously didn't expect my attitude. She simply grabbed the edge of my car window with her hand. It turned out that as long as I didn't care about Blake, Vivian was the clown. There was a smile in my eyes. And I sneered. Vivian doesn't think I don't dare to do anything to her. Does she? When she heard this, she raised her chin. You can give it a try. Let's see if Blake I raised my middle will be angry. Finger and smiled at her. Blake is nothing to you. Vivian's face changed, and there was a hint of panic in her eyes. This was the first time I wasn't being polite. But it felt really good. I stepped on the gas. I used to play around with racing cars for a while when I was fooling around with Blake. Vivian had never seen such a scene before and immediately turned pale with fright. After I backed the car out, she was still standing there in a daze. A malicious thought came to my mind. I increased the speed of the car and drove towards her at high speed. When I was just a few steps away from her, I immediately stopped. Vivian, on the other hand, no longer looked calm. She collapsed to the ground and almost burst into tears. Chicken. But I became more aware that Blake had really protected her well. Otherwise, if she had seen Blake when he was racing, I'm afraid she wouldn't even be able to say a word. I ignored her and drove away quickly. Blake, on the other hand, rushed back that night to stand up for her. I was just driving. She was standing in front of me. What could I do? I calmly applied something to my face. Blake, you let out a low sigh. However, had all his anger drained away by this scene. Scarlett, stop being willful. He stood behind me and looked at me in the mirror. His eyebrows and eyes were rarely a bit softer. I asked Vivian to live in that place. If you don't like it, I'll arrange for her to live somewhere else. Whatever. I didn't look at him. I closed the lid and was about to go to the study. Are you still going to sleep in the study today? He stopped me. I looked at him in confusion. Didn't you receive the agreement today? Since we brought up the divorce, it's strange to sleep in the same room. Blake got angry again. It was really strange. He was angry when I refused to get a divorce before. Now he's angry that I want a divorce. But I don't have that much time to focus on him now. It's almost the end of the year. And I need to finalize Ryan's schedule as soon as possible. I focused all my attention on Ryan. I accompanied him when he was filming. When he was malnourished, I specifically found a nutritionist to make a diet plan for him. Even when he went on business trips, I would go with him and check everything myself. Fortunately, there were no mistakes at the New Year's Eve party. He really stole the show on the red carpet. There were continuous invitations for him. Ryan started to get busy. And he also became a bit more complacent. At a party at the end of the year, I ran into Blake on the red carpet. He attended as a capital investor. He seemed to have dressed up carefully. And he looked no worse than a celebrity. Ryan was being interviewed. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Scarlett, who do you think is more handsome? Me or him?" I smiled. "You're the most handsome today." He was very satisfied. Blake, having fulfilled my obsession, on the other hand, stared at me countless times during the party. He held back his emotions until we got home. As soon as we reached the entrance hallway, he grabbed my wrist. "When on earth are you going to break up with him?" "Ryan is my artist." His eyes were ablaze with anger. And his tone carried a hint of jealousy. Which artist needs to lean right up to someone's ear when talking? I was annoyed too. Because of Ryan, Blake had lost his temper for no apparent reason many times. He even kept sending messages and making phone calls at the filming set. It was really exasperating. "You have a filthy mind, Blake. We're already divorced." He let out a low growl. Like a furious beast. "It's impossible. Scarlett. Don't even think about it." In contrast to his irritability, I calmed down instead. "What about Vivian?" His anger vanished completely. As if doused with water. "Blake, think about Vivian. You can't keep her in the dark for the rest of her life." My voice carried a hint of temptation. "Don't forget. She's still waiting for you." This was what they told me. At that time, they were going out together without regard for my feelings. And I was like a madwoman, forcing Blake to come home at our house. "I'm your wife." I had grabbed his collar and shouted at him. I had put a knife to my wrist in front of him. And in the end, I had even stood on the balcony. All just to gain a bit of his pity. After all, when he and Vivian broke up, I was the one who accompanied him day and night. I was the one who ignored the mocking looks from others. And I even got the right to be called by Blake's name. As long as they used Blake's name. No matter what I was doing or even if I had a high fever, I would drive to find him myself. Because I loved him. I devoted all my attention to him. As a result, later on, I became a laughingstock. When Vivian came back and got back together with Blake, I lost my mind completely. But he just looked at me coldly. As if looking at a dead thing. "Scarlett. Can you stop making a scene? She's waiting for me. I'm also waiting for her." Our marriage was a mistake from the start. I was on the verge of a breakdown. If they were truly in love, then what was I? He was the one who wanted to date me. The one who proposed to me. And the one who promised my mother that he would love me for a lifetime. Until my love for him had seeped into my bones. After it had become an indispensable obsession. He told me. He dated me because I was obedient. He proposed to me because we had known each other since childhood and knew everything about each other. But Vivian was different. She could bring him love and a different feeling. This was something that no one else could do. No matter how hard I tried. If he didn't like me, he just didn't like me. So he was actively taking measures to avoid having children with me. He told me that he hated children. But then, he got Vivian pregnant with his child. It was the crystallization of their love. I will never forget. The way he was beaming with joy when he announced it at the gathering. "From now on, you'll be the uncles and aunts of my child. When the baby's full moon comes, anyone whose gift is too ordinary will be kicked out directly." That was a video sent to me by a mutual friend. The candid shot wasn't very steady. But his voice seeped into my ears bit by bit. Even after I jumped from the rooftop, that voice still lingered. But this time, Blake was trembling all over. He seemed to be caught in an uncontrollable sense of disappointment. His eyes, as dark as the abyss, stared at me intently. "Scarlett, do you really have to divorce me?" "Yes." As soon as my firm words left my mouth, Blake's lips pressed firmly against mine. Like someone in a state of indulgence. His breathing gradually became heavier. But I was perfectly clear. Blake was unwilling. Only because of his unwillingness did he not want a divorce. All he wanted, from beginning to end, was my obedience. This kiss was as cold as water. I just stared at him coldly. I didn't even respond. Blake couldn't deceive himself any longer and had to stop. But he still held my hand tightly. Scarlett. What should I do with you? His tone was long and drawn out. And his warm breath, and against my ear. I remained indifferent. Sign the divorce agreement. Blake, we have to get a divorce. It wasn't a request or a plea. It was a necessity. He fled in a hurry. When I went out the next day, he still hadn't come out of the study. It didn't matter. I could afford to wait. I was just afraid that in half a year, Vivian wouldn't be able to sit still. After that night, I moved out. Just as Ryan was joining a filming crew, I went with him. Ryan thought it was his fault. He asked tentatively a few questions. It's not because of you. I gave him a reassuring smile. This relationship was a mistake from the start. Ryan wanted to comfort me. But he just squeezed my shoulder. If you don't feel well, you can go back first. I just shook my head. So I stayed with him and the filming crew for another month. It was New Year's Eve. My mother ordered me to go home. So I bought a plane ticket and flew back. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Blake, who almost never showed up, sitting on the sofa. A wave of weariness washed over me. My mother didn't notice anything. She pulled me into the kitchen and scolded me harshly. They say newlyweds are like lovebirds. But I think you're just brainless. Blake has come to our house so many times. And you? You're running around with an artist every day. She glanced outside and whispered. If that seductor's really steps in, I don't know where you'll go to cry. Mom. I said seriously. I really don't like him anymore. My mother was taken aback. It's true. I'm not throwing a tantrum or demanding anything. I heard myself say firmly. I really don't like him anymore. My mother then realized it. She observed me carefully for a while before holding my hand. Stay here for a while. I don't know what she said to Blake when she went out. When I went out, he was no longer in the living room. Since you've made up your mind, there's no turning back. My mother waved her hand and told Aunt Zheng to serve the meal. My brother was on a business trip to negotiate a deal. It was just my mother and me in the whole house. And we spent New Year's Eve together. Actually, it had always been like this. Since I started dating Blake, every holiday, he always had something to do. Either on a business trip or in a meeting. So I was used to it. But Blake wasn't used to it yet. I looked at the fireworks constantly bursting outside the window. It didn't matter. He would get used to it. Just like before. I got used to his staying out all night and his indifference. I stood by the window for a while longer. In the hazy smoke, I saw Blake. I don't know how long he had been standing there. His face was pale. And his nose was extremely red. Aunt Zheng. Close the window. I turned around and went into the room. Unexpectedly, Hadim so Solvoyed Susher. He was still there the next day. Scarlett. This was the first time he had called me like this. From the time we met until now, it had been almost 10 years. But I didn't need it anymore. I just looked up in silence. I've thought about it for a long time. Since that night, I've been thinking about our relationship. He took a deep breath. I won't get a divorce. I know that what happened between me and Vivian before made you very uncomfortable. And when she came back to the country later, I can understand everything you did now. Just like you and Ryan. Every time I see him standing beside you, I'm really unhappy. He frowned, looking a bit aggrieved. But I know that all of this is you taking revenge on me. Now I fully understand that I don't have any love for Vivian. Blake's expression was serious and affectionate. It seemed that as long as he said this, I would forgive him. So Scarlett. This time I'll court you. He promised with great determination. I laughed. I could hardly stop myself from laughing in the end. Blake. What makes you think that I'll accept your pursuit? I stopped smiling. Back then, you could do so many things for Vivian. Could it be that you can do it all over again now? Blake replied eagerly. I can. But I don't need it. I interrupted his promise. Blake, you not out a low sigh. From the time we started dating until now. It's been at least a few years. Right? I, Scarlett, have never used other people's leftovers. Don't you know this? Back then, I liked you. So I was willing to humble myself. Just like you did for Vivian. I listed one by one the things he had done for love in his youth. But now, if you repeat all those things, then in your heart, who am I? I stared at him intently. In your heart, which woman can drive you crazy? Me or Vivian? I threw back at him all the words he had said to me in my previous life. Sure enough, all the color drained from Blake's face. He almost couldn't stand upright. Since you have your so-called deep affection, then don't come and disgust me. I never cared about his love for Vivian. After all, everyone was young once. But he couldn't miss that true love while at the same time coming to me to ask for love. A person's heart can't be split in two. I took one last look at him. Then I turned around and left resolutely. Since then, Blake temporarily stepped out of my life. But he still didn't sign the divorce agreement. No matter how my lawyer tried to contact him, he just pretended not to be available. There was no other way. So I started to file a lawsuit directly. The relationship between the husband and wife has broken down. And we can no longer live together. This was my claim. Blake called me that very day. His voice was filled with unbearable pain. Scarlett, are you really that heartless? I didn't say anything and hung up the phone directly. Then I blocked his number. I had nothing more to say to this man. Later, Vivian came to see me twice. But my people stopped her outside directly. Until one time during a journalist interview, she managed to sneak in. She shoved the microphone right in front of Ryan. Mr. She, what's your opinion on interfering in your manager's marriage contract? My face changed. Ryan was also taken aback for a moment. It is said that you only have your current status by relying on your manager. When you mentioned your efforts just now, does it specifically mean flattering wealthy women? Her voice was sharp and straightforward. Everyone was so stunned by this big piece of gossip that they couldn't say a word for a moment. Only I reacted immediately. I asked my assistant to take Ryan away. I went forward myself and pulled Vivian away. Let go of me. Vivian lost her calmness. And the pride and arrogance on her face disappeared completely. Scarlett, you're a bitch. It doesn't matter if you don't get a divorce. I'll directly make your Ryan infamous. I frowned and said, Vivian, you're really crazy. She slapped me hard, but I immediately slapped her back. I grabbed her neck and pressed her against the wall. You'd better understand clearly that it's Blake who refuses to get a divorce now. Not me. I sneered and said, if you're so capable, what's the point of picking on me? Make Blake get a divorce. And the position of Mrs. Blake will surely be yours. She was startled by my actions. She stared at me in a daze. The sooner he gets a divorce, the sooner you two can achieve your happy ending. My voice carried a hint of sternness. But if you dare to touch Ryan, I can't guarantee what I'll do to you. I leaned close to her ear and lowered my voice. For example, that car that didn't accelerate before might directly crush your bones one night. It's just about scaring people. I sneered and watched her flee in a hurry. Vivian's courage is only that much. Vivian's question still caused quite a stir. For a while, the rumors about Ryan kept spreading on the internet. I told him to focus on filming with peace of mind. Just as I was about to clarify the situation, Blake posted a photo on the official Weibo account of his company. It showed a hand on the ring finger. The wedding ring I had chosen before was still properly worn on it. The editor secretly took a look for everyone. Our boss is still showing off his wifi. This is simply absurd. I was so angry that I directly smashed my phone. But at this moment, Blake seemed to have disappeared from the world, and I couldn't get in touch with him at all. Helplessly, I could only make the best of the situation. Otherwise, if the news of the divorce spreads, no matter what, Ryan will be suspected. It's just that this kind of unfair treatment is stuck in my throat. I can neither swallow it nor spit it out. It's really uncomfortable. But soon there was other news on the internet. The love story between Vivian and Blake was dug up by marketing accounts. They even exaggerated the facts and portrayed me as a victim of a loveless marriage. As soon as the video was released, many netizens started to blindly support me. The official Weibo account of Blake's company was instantly flooded. Netizens began to discuss who Blake's true love really was. Ryan, on the other hand, gradually got out of this matter. Scarlett, not bad. This is a good move at diverting the trouble to others. My brother called me as soon as possible. It wasn't me. I was puzzled as to why this matter was suddenly exposed. And the market value of the Blake family also evaporated a lot because of this scandal. Even Vivian was quickly driven off the internet by the criticism. I heard that she is now like a homeless dog. Even the many wild things she did abroad were exposed. For a while, curses flew towards her like snowflakes. As for Blake, he insisted on not showing up and didn't bother to deal with the rumors on the internet. He let the netizens scold him at will. After the hype of the matter died down, Blake and I successfully got a divorce. Scarlett. He looked sad. Let me drive you home. I held the divorce certificate and raised my eyebrows. Blake let out a low sigh. I have my own car. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. It was the beginning of my new life. It was also the beginning of the end of my intersection with Blake. The end of the full text.